There is no such thing as the perfect trade. Anytime a big deal goes down, like what we saw Saturday night between the Rams and the Lions in the NFL, there's always positives and negatives, winners and losers. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts on the blockbuster trade last night between Detroit and Los Angeles. Now, in case you guys were busy, it was a Saturday night. Let me give you the details of the trade first. The Rams sent Jared Goff, along with a third-round pick in this year's draft and a first-rounder in 2022 and 2023, in exchange for Matt Stafford. Now, when news of this trade was released, the Rams Superbowl odds for next season went up by 17%. I've got mixed feelings about this trade on both sides, both the Rams side and the Lions side. I'm going to start with both quarterbacks first, then we'll get into the Rams and the Lions. Obviously, the biggest winner in this trade is Matt Stafford. He is going from a dumpster fire in Detroit to an immediate Super Bowl contender. When he suits up week 1 next season, he will be playing on the most talented team in his NFL career. The Rams have an elite defense. Sean McVay is an offensive mastermind. McVay's offense, I feel like, has been held back for years by the limitations of Jared Goff. You could see the frustration on Sean McVay's face late in the season. This dude started John Wolford over Jared Goff in the playoffs against Seattle. Once that happened, you knew Goff's days in Los Angeles were numbered. Now, those limitations of Jared Goff, they are gone now that Matt Stafford is in town. He should flourish in Sean McVay's wide-open play-action offense. Stafford will finally have a competent rushing attack to fall back on. After carrying the load for 12 years in Detroit, it's not going to be all on the shoulders of Matt Stafford to win football games. He's got an elite defense to fall back on. Cam Akers in the backfield. Great group of receivers. If you're Matt Stafford, it is like Christmas morning today. You're leaving the awful weather in Detroit for sunny Los Angeles. And for the first time in your career, you're a legit Super Bowl contender. Now, on the flip side of that, the biggest loser in this trade is Jared Goff. Colin Cowherd tweeted Saturday night that Goff is going from Sean McVay to Fred Flintstone. It's not going to end well. This has been a rapid fall from grace for Jared Goff. Just think about this. 2 years ago, he was playing in the Super Bowl. He was given a huge extension that offseason. His NFL career appeared to be set. He was a franchise quarterback. The future for him looked bright. Here we sit 2 years later. He is heading directly towards one of the biggest black holes in the NFL, the Detroit Lions, a franchise that has been in a rebuild since Barry Sanders retired. Under Sean McVay, the Rams have made the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. The Detroit Lions, on the other hand, have made the playoffs 3 times in the last 20 years. I think owners in the NFL are starting to become a little bit more apprehensive in committing big money to these young, unproven quarterbacks. We've seen it the last 2 years in Dallas, with Jerry Jones hesitant to commit to Dak Prescott. Jared Goff is a prime example of why NFL teams should be leery handing out over $100 million in guaranteed money to unproven quarterbacks. Goff was on fire in 2018, had a great year. But it's the only great season of his career. It was a flash in the pan. After the Rams gave him that big contract and the pressure was on to perform, Jared Goff fell apart. He is second in the NFL in turnovers the past 2 years. 38 turnovers in 2 years. Now that's a testament to Sean McVay's greatness and the Rams defense. Usually, when you rank near the top of the league in turnovers, you aren't making the playoffs. The Rams, I think, were nervous headed into this offseason because everyone thought that Jared Goff's contract was untradeable. He's got 4 years, damn near $107 million left on his deal. Who in the hell wants to inherit that monstrosity for a quarterback who is inconsistent, who is limited, and turns the ball over more than anyone not named Jameis Winston? The Detroit Lions, of course. You can always depend on the Detroit Lions to make a questionable personnel decision. Now, let me get this out of the way first. I like the haul of draft picks the Lions got from the Rams. If you're really committed to a long-term rebuild, you need draft picks. That's how it's done in this league. You build through the draft. So I like that part of the trade. What I don't like is the Lions agreeing to absorb Jared Goff and his contract. I understand that it was likely a requirement of the Rams to send Goff to Detroit to get this deal done. I get that part. But Detroit had 7 or 8 other teams that were interested in Matt Stafford. It's not like there wasn't other offers. Now, I don't know the specifics of those deals. Maybe they didn't include as many draft picks, but Goff's contract is a big problem. The Lions are stuck with him until at least 2023, when there's an out clause in his contract. Theoretically, they could cut him after this upcoming season, 2021, but they would take a $15 million cap hit. Jared Goff's due $40 million in 2022, so the Lions would save $25 million if they cut him, but wasting $15 million in dead cap space isn't something that most teams are willing to do. Another reason I don't like Jared Goff to Detroit. The Lions are going into a rebuild. Again. You don't rebuild paying your quarterback franchise quarterback money. It's counterintuitive. You've got a rookie head coach in Detroit, a load of draft picks. In most cases, teams in a rebuild, they get a young quarterback in the draft. They aren't paying him much, and they build up the rest of the roster paying other players. Kind of like the Rams did when they traded up to select Jared Goff number 1 overall a few years ago. They had him for cheap. They built up the roster around him, and they've had a good run the last 4 years. That's how it's done. Other than that, I like this deal for the Lions. The expectation going in was they would only get 1 first-round pick in return for Matt Stafford. Instead, they got 2 first-rounders and a third-rounder. One hell of a haul, which is what surprises me with the Los Angeles Rams, who I feel like gave away way too much to get Matt Stafford. We talked about this the other day. We are going to see a lot of movement with quarterbacks in the NFL this offseason. Deshaun Watson's available. Carson Wentz could be available. Matt Ryan. Jameis Winston's a free agent. I mean, the list goes on and on. My point is, there is a plethora of options this offseason for teams that are needing quarterbacks. So if you're Sean McVay and the Rams, why in the hell would you give up that many draft picks for Matt Stafford? In the short term, this is great for the Rams. Like I said earlier, I think Matt Stafford is going to flourish with Sean McVay. But you look at teams in the NFL that have long-term success. They don't trade away high draft picks on a consistent basis. With the ink dry on this deal, the Rams are now going to go 7 consecutive drafts without a first-round draft pick. They are obviously all in on the next couple of years. Damn, what happens after that is their mentality. On the one hand, I understand it. You want to take advantage of your elite defense that is in its prime right now. You've got a stacked roster offensively. Now with a quarterback who doesn't have the limitations of Jared Goff. So I get it. I mean, the Rams are Super Bowl contenders. There's no doubt about it. But they have no margin for error. They are banking on this deal with Matt Stafford to bring them a Super Bowl ring. Because if it doesn't, this will be a failure. And the Rams could be screwed in the long term. They have an aging offensive line, a salary cap that's damn near maxed out. They have very little room with their cap because they're committed long term to guys like Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and now Matt Stafford. Depth is going to be an issue for the Rams. They don't have draft picks to bulk up the roster, and they don't have the cap room either to go after players in free agency. What happens if the injuries start to pile up? I mean, Sean McVay is taking a huge risk with Matt Stafford, a quarterback who's been in the NFL for 12 years and never won a playoff game. We're about to find out if Stafford wasn't successful in Detroit because he was surrounded by bad teams, or if he just couldn't get the job done. Because if he can't win in Los Angeles with this team, it will be clear that Matt Stafford is not a franchise quarterback. And if he does win, 2 years from now, the Rams are going to have to break the bank to keep him. Kind of like they had to do with Jalen Ramsey after they traded with Jacksonville to acquire him. Big risks are Sean McVay's MO. He has been taking big risks since he's been the head coach in Los Angeles. Clearly, he doesn't give a damn about the draft. He trades away first-round picks as often as Tom Brady wins Super Bowls. But you can't argue with Sean McVay's success. He might go about building his team in a non-traditional way, but so far it's working for him. Dude is third in the NFL in wins the last 4 years. Has made the playoffs 3 times. Made it to the Super Bowl. And that's with Jared Goff as his quarterback. He's now upgraded to Matt Stafford. The Rams will be a dangerous team in the short term. We will see how this ends up working out for them long term. Like I said, I feel like they gave up too many draft picks to get Matt Stafford to Los Angeles. Now, they were able to unload Jared Goff and his albatross of a contract. That's a good thing. But I have my concerns long term with the Rams. But clearly, Sean McVay is not worried about the long term. He's worried about today. We'll see if it works out. There was another head coach in the NFL that traded away draft picks with reckless abandon. His name was Bill O'Brien. Remember him? Former coach of the Houston Texans. The Texans were making the playoffs every year, winning the AFC South regularly. Bill O'Brien kept trading away first and second round draft picks, not worried about next season or 2 years from now or 3 years from now. Bill O'Brien was worried about today. Now the Texans find themselves in a bind with a quarterback who wants to get the hell out of Houston immediately. Now, Sean McVay is no Bill O'Brien. I'm not comparing those two. I have much more confidence in Sean McVay than I do in Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien was in way over his head. But if this deal with Matt Stafford doesn't result in a championship for the Rams, with them mortgaging their future to acquire him, then how could we not look back on this trade in a few years and view it as a failure? All right, that's all for today. Hit that like and subscribe button. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Who was the biggest winner of this trade between the Rams and the Lions? Do you guys think the Rams are the favorites to win the NFC next season with Matt Stafford? How do you feel about the Lions agreeing to take Jared Goff? Let me know your thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Best way to contact me is by email at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.